Well, I do want to thank Caleb Classic Well for giving me a bit of a rant for my ideas for going to Chicago next year. But anyways, it's time for our episode of Lindsay TVFilm Podcast, and for next little bit, these are going to be the last Tuesday of the month because I decided with my other and more main channel, History and Leisure, is that do new video every Sunday and then bonus video maybe Tuesdays, but that's going to start in a little bit. Today kind of started with the Mountain Tribus video that I posted on my channel last Sunday. But the next video there, Park and Train, it's going to be, first video is going to be Labor Day, Monday, and then it's going to be Sundays, and then Old Welcome Park Warner when I was over in Spain in February. That didn't have audio originally, so I'm going to probably work on that for the rest of the week and have that go out the 13th. Hopefully I should get a box in, 2 boxes actually. I can do a box for that, and I can add that one on campus, and that will go out the 20th, and then next stream the 27th. October would be Halloween stuff. Might not actually do the Terror in the Walls for Eastern State, but I'll still have a vlog there because it is free for students on September 11th. So I'm doing that, and then stream would be October 25th. Then November, since the only days off I have between Labor Day and Christmas Eve are things being Black Friday, so I'm probably do a stream on Black Friday instead of November 29th. Something might come up that might be interesting as well. So I might do something else like in the morning, and then it'll be kind of late at night. That stream. Now I'll start with post that the 29th instead. Then I probably would take the last week until Christmas off, so the 19th to 18th to the 25th would be off, and then maybe the 27th, because I'm probably, as soon as the New Year hits, I'm probably going to go down to Florida because my dad is moving there. He's probably going to be down there, so I can celebrate Christmas and graduation with him, since I won't actually be walking until May. So yeah, enough out of the way. Let's get straight to the news. I wasn't thinking I'd be starting double already, but yeah, in a minute. So let's get the big news out of the way. Kamen Rider Revice. That just ended. And so actually go back. I didn't do it last stream because I just want to do a whole final review, because I usually do 8 episodes of my first thoughts, and then it's like, hey, might as well do 8 for the final thoughts here. But with Geets, unless I watch something else that I'm not planning on doing, because I feel next news is already pretty stacked, but I'll get to that at the end of the stream. So the whole thing, actually the whole thing for Veil was destroyed, is that they keep baiting us with different Vice stamps, and Buffalo and Tricera only appear only get used in Girls Remix. I know 2 episodes are already out, but there's another episode coming out next week, so I'm going to save that for next streaming, kind of, push Revice in a little bit more as we get into Geets, I guess. And the final thought really is Giff himself in the series. By saying again, is that how really the basic laws of the demons aren't really explained well in series, which probably hurts it a bit more. But it's kind of, I feel like everything kind of feels like once the initial sort of threat is detained, everything kind of falls apart of it. Kind of like the middle of 0-1 that didn't work out well. But once the company had to be rebuilt through COVID and all, kind of around COVID, so like rebuilding through COVID, and it really wasn't an issue in the world of 0-1. They're still rebuilding off of that. I mean, there, fix itself. Sabering, I think most series kind of have a little weird weak point in the middle, but like for Sentai, that's because hitting halfway is around the summer holidays, and that's kind of what's been explained. And basically, George's too busy working on his own final form for his dad. Just kind of sad and hard in the finale. He ends up going to his father's grave. I think after he talks to Tekka, because there's only a rumor that if the Tokusatsu family gets enough followers, they will actually greenlight a George vs. Tekka series. At least that's what it looks like. And seeing they kind of give a story where they show love of going through pain, and so just wants to protect her, and becomes more going through an arc of trying to bring more trust. Like the brother side of their demon, especially with Kaigero coming back, and with Vivaldi Live, it kind of like seeing his past, and he's like he's been hiding there, and it's kind of with the end with Vice saying he'll always be there, but we'll probably need an explanation in the new movie to know why he comes back. And I think we all agree is that Kamen Rider Juga is overpowered, and kind of doesn't accept surrender until he sees his old sketches, which end up inspiring his dad to create the Vice stamp system. Interesting, but apparently the old Kawasaki household was the base for Weekend, where I think the Ushijima family, I think it's the name that they used for them, high with their whole base, and it's a good room with all the drawings and stuff behind a mirror, and you could tell there was like a little mark from an experiment, which is probably gonna be hard to deal with. The whole board would probably have to be replaced by the next person, or be done before the next people move in, or it's like sold and all that, I guess. The contract between Vice and Nikki is that he could lose memories of his family, but since it considers Vice family, the contract never expires until the very end, where they punch each other back to their base forms, because that's how final form works. It's their base forms with just a new armor on top of it, kind of like the genome changes. Yeah, Battle Familia is still going to be a little while, probably. I probably wouldn't expect it out at the end of the year. Maybe January. I'm not even sure if I'll continue this series past January, but I will at least keep doing it until I finish Double, and then I'll see. Maybe I'll do a special one after for DonBrothers when I decide to end it, and just kind of like wrap up those and give its closure. Anyways, finishing off the first season of DonBrothers. So, that's where we left off, is that we were learning the following episode was going to be about Star Brother meeting his predecessor and how he got in trouble with like a mafia group that runs like a ramen place. So, and basically sort of like the understanding is sort of like most DonBrothers don't really ever actually fight, and so if they use their power for the wrong reasons, they will be taken away and the next candidate will appear. It's a cool moment with a Torbolt fighting Murasami when the cop Fuuto shows up, which there's another cool fight between the Juto, the cat one with cop, and then Natsumi during a storm scene where Tsubasa Tsubasa ends up getting turned into a dog. That was a funny end when he comes back as a human. I made a few memes with that. Taking 5-man against Mega Ranger, which is Mega Ranger Monster, which is in Mega Ranger about high school students, and 5-man they were teachers. So it's kind of interesting how teachers versus student right away. It's kind of cool touch, but really the monster reminded more of Terra Venture with the head Skullblind, although it still had to make sense with the attack modes that the Mega Rangers did. I don't really know if that was really well translated in space, but it still kind of looks like the donut. So it really makes it more like the skyline of Terra Venture. It might be just me. And there's another recent full episode where Kizuno lost his job and his boss assures that he will be next and he becomes the monster. And so in the end, since both become monsters, they kind of start to associate with that. But also, since Momotaro misheard Kizuno's talking about his other problems, he thought it was like his mother's problem. So there's a lie about taking care of their moms, or moms or great moms or something like that. It's kind of funny. It spirals to everyone trying to do extra jobs, and they end up with Tsubasa working as a chef at a failing restaurant, because the reason why Kijo got fired in the first place, and so they say it being the DonBrothers. But I feel like it's been a long time since the Noto showed up with the main, like, Short Life Torvald appeared was the last time I think we saw the Jutsu, at least when they transformed. But I think in general it was a while until the last 2 weeks where the Noto should have transformed only fighting Jiro for a bit. And then Tsunade fills in for Tsubasa's testimony for the clip show episode. And then Sonoi also appears in the cafe, briefly talking about Momotaro, and then Sonoi and Sonoza appear at the end of the episode in the cafe, and they're like, "It's over." Nope, that was a lie. But next week will be the end. Lol. And the whole theater that's like just like everybody fighting all over the place, which kind of almost makes it feel like the climax of the series, like it's probably gonna end in like October or something. Yeah, maybe like 32 episodes or something like that, kind of like Disney era. But again, I didn't expect I'd be watching double, but didn't change a ticker. I'm not gonna worry about it. But so this time it makes sense since I've watched 18 episodes and now the Decade crossover last night. That's before XL has his full debut and show. It made sense for me to just, hey, I will go and got the skill that's going on so far in the series. And we had, so Nazca just died, the husband of Sicko. It's very cool. I feel like an adaptation, I think he probably would have ended up becoming XL if Double was ever considered for an adaptation. And then the real that Seigo does use the power later on and to upgrade further. It does look very Rider-esque. It's like, their own evil Rider, but it's like, I don't know if the footage will correspond to him getting those upgrades to the new footage and all that, since obviously we'll be fighting Double unless they made him like brainwash again for something like 2 episodes in adaptation. I don't know. He could be like Ryan. He goes away for a while, to his powers and stuff. It was Kirkyo was the Nazca. But it's like cool the teasers in both the Decade crossover and the series 4 XL feel like very similar, kind of like I hate Fuuto when Shotoro's like, Fuuto is the best place in the world. You should all move to Fuuto. But also there's ultra upscale apparel from the local clothing company, which is called the Window Scale. But I feel like in Shobigen's Night leaves a lot of. I think some of that is because they originally don't want Akiko to know, or they keep getting intro with Akiko, and then she learns in the movie about her father died and how it's kind of Shoto's fault. I think that's more part in show that Shoto kind of feels at fault for everything, but we see it in the movies where he went after Philip when he was trying to save him, but then things got worse with them being found, and their mentor became Skull in life, and then his like ghost fought them in the movie for part of it, but then when it cuts to the decade half, that whole Skull thing is done, although we have his card still for Decade's gimmick, and then an alternate version of Skull does appear in the very end, but Skull doesn't partake in the battle, and instead Cyclone and Jerk are split apart with one of Decade's moves. And I think in a novel, there's another version of Cyclone where it just uses the Lost Rider, which is what Skull uses to transform. I think the modern driver they had a few years ago, the Double Driver, I think it's like one of the first products done by Team Rider US. I think you can convert that to the Lost Driver if you want to do just Cyclone or Skull, I guess. But apparently, Fuuto PI is based on a manga. Kind of makes sense. A lot of animes at Tokime. There's some parallels to Fell by Failure. It's kind of an arc of sort of like Philip in the movie tries to learn to live up to Sakuchi's expectations, and he kind of fails soon until he dies when he's awarded his boss's hat, and then Shiro has the same issue with his daughter Akiko early on in the series, and then I think that's some issues with Philip too early on as well. But then Philip has issues with Tokime, and they kind of feel kind of a similar arc of sort of like repeating of building up to your expectations within group and being worthy of a part of the group and knowing what it means to be a detective and all that. Also, we kind of knocked through a lot of Dopon's early on before Aurora really debuted, and it's an interesting character design for Aurora, in my opinion, both his sort of like rider form or Dopont form, monster form, and as a mortal being. And you think, like, compared to like more recent series, I would think like the version would be like the road to Begins Night, and the first battle at the end of the episode is Begins Night itself, and then you skip a little bit. I don't know, or maybe it's like it kind of begins with like Double already being active, although we kind of see sort of the origin of Double. And also the money monster kind of remind me of a monster from Q Ranger, from Kaku Ranger. I'm not sure which one's off the top of my head, but I think it's like the head and the more pudgy design, I guess, of monster form. It probably Decade's like conclusion is overdue, and I'm not sure what people's thoughts are on this film as Decade's conclusion, but both Decade and Del kind of feel very old-fashioned, since Decade still uses film photography, and the Double Riders use animal-themed flip phones. Kind of makes them feel very old-fashioned. Where I feel like Forza is more like, I think it's feeling more like thinking about like how like a high school setting of the time and the more futuristic motif. I think it was just more weighed down, kind of like waiting for a new ridership with a large cast, where Double doesn't really have that issue, where two of the three main detectives in the main series become the same or one rider, and you have a few more recurring characters like the police and the villains. You know, with Excel showing up, things are going to change a bit, but yeah, also learns that Akiko and Ryu are a couple, but whole other stories with them being a family and all of that. But yeah, on to the movies. First one is a Sentai movie, being Zenkaiger vs. Kiramager vs. Sempaiger. And the whole story is that a supposed illegitimate prince of the villains in Zenkaiger is put in power thanks to a Kitsune monster who disguised herself as Mabushina and arrested a real Mabushina and put Stacy and Stacy as well. And Kitsunetopia scientist wants to rule the world and creates a decoy steakhouse world monster. I think it's probably what you would call him in English. And they use kind of brought up again, and the two Rangers, all the Rangers find the two weak ones, including the Zox and Kaito, and Kairi of the Lupin Rangers, and then Kaito, the Kikinoids, and the Core 5. Zenkaiger gets stuck in the Steakhouse world, and then they use various attacks to end up trying to beat the monster while they're in there. And there's some fun competition about eating in there, some weird teaser, some weird powers, some that make sense with big eaters and yos like in curry and stuff like that. Also a little bit about Mars Mystic and Verzox, and also the pun on Kaito being Zenkaiger's name and Kaito meaning thief, like Kairi. It's kind of what I messed up there too, but originally I was going to do Cars 3 and Lightyear together, but with Cars on the Road, I think kind of inspired me to watch Cars 3. But just do Cars thing next month. So I think one of the main concepts I took away from Lightyear was it's like the whole blink it and you miss it. It's like, sure, he never got to say goodbye to Alicia, but I'm not sure he cared either way about her life, and his focus was totally on the mission. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. And I think that could be sort of like the duality between Buzz and Zurich, who became the evil alter ego who tried to go back and fix everything. But the other is like he's stuck where he is, and he's met people and is able to make up with everybody, and now they have a new full outpost going on of protecting their little corner of the universe. The whole thing with all the grunts teleporting back after their story is kind of funny. But it's like after a while we kind of get it, but then they end up doing it anyway, even though we already get it. I think the Zergs is a lot bigger than I expected, because I think they're a lot closer in height, at least in toy form, in Toy Story 2. And the video game in Toy Story 2. Not Toy Story video game, but the video game they play in Toy Story. Rex plays it in the beginning of Toy Story 2. It's probably about the same size as Power Dizer, I think. Maybe a bit smaller. Yeah, no, smaller, but feels more like the Dizer scale thing than just like a foot or two taller than Buzz. And also, the jetpack is only in the final battle and the new suits, and not the old suits or the investigative or the sort of the patrol suits, I guess, because they look like the old Space Ranger suits, but they're just on the ground. Alice thought Buzz was going to retire and put Izzy in charge for a second at the end, but they're all a whole squad. There's a lot of old future Blue Sky concepts. There was a concept for a future themed part of not Tomorrowland, but maybe a future gate that kind of reminded me of the Onion and what they have built for the main city area in Lightyear. I was thinking that launch tower for the rocket looks a bit like Space Mountain, which kind of makes sense. It's a rocket because you're riding in a rocket through space, so it kind of makes sense that the whole spaceport motif. So I guess it kind of really makes sense in that regard. They would pay homage to that. It's I'm sure it's really about getting home. I think that really sold it until he started meeting with friends and getting to know them. And it's no, it was they've gotten too used to being here. They've had lives and generations here, so I think that's a fair point. But anyways, next month I was teasing is that we're going to do Cars, my review Cars 3. I've already watched that. The new Cars on the Road series, Kamen Rider Revice, Girls Remix, continue with Fuuto Kamen Rider Geats, DonBrothers, and no proposal to watch Howl's Moving Castle for my Rider's Mind class and all the writing departments. So, I haven't watched it. People really rave about it. So, I'll write the link for next stream so you can get a reminder for that to know when it goes live. And yeah, it's going to be titled Cars, Girls, and Moving Castles. Kind of play off what I did about girls, trucks, beer. That's kind of the joke right there. But yeah, I need it for my water bottle. So until next month, comment, subscribe, and strike the bell.